This is DW News from Berlin. A new terrorist attack has been neutralized. A terrorist mastermind is still at large. A violent pre-dawn show of force in a Paris suburb nets multiple arrests and smashes a militant cell. But France's most wanted terrorist mastermind is still on the run. Also coming up, Norway says it believes that one of its citizens has been executed by IS in Syria. Prime Minister Erna Stolberg condemning it as a despicable, brutal act. And the world of rugby loses a hero. Yona Lomo, the All Blacks legend and rugby first global superstar, has died at the age of 40. I'm Sarah Kelly. Welcome to the program. As the dust settles and the evaluation continues, we are getting a better idea of the stakes involved in that early morning Paris raid and the outcome. Terrorist mastermind Abdelhamid Abaoud was the target of that raid. Now, he was not among the 8 suspects arrested. It is unclear if he was killed. But there is positive news, and it is breathtaking. The operation broke up a cell authorities say was poised to carry out imminent strikes. A cache of arms and explosives has been confiscated. Paris prosecutor Francois Molin saying, quote, a new team of terrorists has been neutralized. Now, Molin added that those arrested are being identified and at least one man who has been killed in the onslaught and a woman who is believed to have blown herself up. The prosecutor also confirming that a mobile phone was found outside the Bataclan concert hall with a text message saying, "We are starting." Investigators want to find out who that message was sent to. Now, Molin summed all of this up in a press conference. Let's listen in.
The inquiry that we opened on Friday evening has made considerable headway. This assault bears witness to that. Another terrorist group has been neutralized. We have every reason to believe, in light of their arms, their organizational structure, and their intent, that this terrorist team was likely to take action and commit terrorist attacks.
So you have just heard the outcome of that raid. Now here is the play-by-play. An operation with all of the hallmarks of a military offensive erupted in the wee hours of the morning.
The police operation took 7 hours. When it was over, 8 terror suspects were in custody. At least 2 were dead. These are exceptional circumstances today. As I speak to you, a particularly dangerous and serious police operation has just taken place. It was aimed at neutralizing terrorists based in Saint-Denis. Terrorists who are linked to the authors of the attacks and awful crimes of Friday night.
Et des crimes odieux de vendredi soir.
The raids in Saint-Denis began in the early hours. Police and military units quickly took over the streets, urging residents to stay at home. France's Prime Minister Manuel Valls was in fighting form as he addressed Parliament afterwards. We will prove to the French people that we are fully united as a nation. That's what they expect of us. These terrorists are our enemies, and we will destroy them together. The beefed-up security Valls promised was already very much in evidence this afternoon, as the Eiffel Tower reopened to visitors. With authorities set to extend the country's state of emergency for 3 months, this looks set to be the new normal.
Correspondent Lisa Lewis is standing by for us in Paris with the very latest. Lisa, this was such a dramatic day today. The streets of Paris really looked like a war zone there. Bring us up to date. We just recently heard from the Paris prosecutor.
Yes, that's correct. The Paris prosecutor said that 8 people were arrested this morning, 7 men and 1 woman. He did not reveal the identities of these people, but he did say that France's 2 most wanted men, so that is Salah Abdeslam and Abdelhamid Abaoud, who is thought to be the mastermind of last Friday's attacks, that those people were not among the arrested. The prosecutor also said that at least 2 people died in the raid. That is, he said that certain parts of the the apartments that were raided are still not accessible to investigators because they're in such a bad state that the walls need to be stabilized before investigators can access these parts. So we don't know at the moment what is hidden in these parts of the apartments.
The most wanted man right now, Abdelhamid Abaoud, where could he be then?
Well, we don't know at this point of time. It could be that he's among the dead of the raid this morning, but that is not confirmed at the moment. He could be on the run. He could be on the run in Europe. He could be on the run in France. Investigators beforehand, they believed he was in Syria and managing and organizing the attacks from there. Now they seem to be thinking he was in Europe all the time, and that is why they launched the raid, this raid this morning, because they thought he might have been in one of the apartments.
Elisa, I'm looking at the scene behind you. There seems to be a lot of people. They seem to be going about their business. What is the mood, though, among the citizens of Paris, especially given a day like today?
Yes, it's very dramatic here. People are very scared. The people I've been talking to in the streets, they've been telling me, you know, we know that we are not supposed to be afraid, but we are just scared other terrorist attacks could happen. They feel attacked as a people. These terrorist attacks were not against a specific group in France. They were against the whole French population. They were against their way of life, their way of being, their way of having fun, having drinks at night. And they feel that new terrorist attacks could happen anytime, especially because it's apparently so easy to plan new terrorist attacks, and they're not blaming anybody. They're not saying the secret services or the police are not doing their job. They're just saying it's really difficult to survey and to control everybody in the times of the internet, in the times of smartphones.
So a lot of uncertainty with more and more terrorist suspects coming out of the woodwork. Lisa Lewis for us in Paris. Thank you. And authorities all over the world are on high alert. In Turkey, 8 people have been arrested. They're suspected of being Islamic State militants, supposedly planning to travel to Germany, pretending to be refugees. The 8 men arrived at Istanbul's main airport from Morocco, saying that they were tourists, but their reservations later turned out to be fake. Police found a map of the route to Germany through Greece and the Balkans in one of the suspects' baggage. And Honduran police say that they have detained 5 Syrians traveling on stolen Greek passports who were evidently headed for the United States. They say the men intended to travel by land and that they have no known link to the Paris attackers. Now, this comes as Republican lawmakers in the U.S. have been calling for tighter controls on Syrians seeking asylum. House Speaker Paul Ryan said the country's first priority should be to protect the American people. This puts them at odds with President Obama, who has called for thousands to be given refuge. Well, let's bring in Miodrag Sorge, who is joining us from Washington. He is our bureau chief there. Miodrag, as we just heard, 5 Syrians detained in Honduras. They were bound for the United States. What more do we know about them?
It's a very interesting story. Unfortunately, the news about the Syrian men in Honduras is slowly unraveling. The Honduran police have detained 5 Syrian nationals there. They were trying to reach the United States. What makes this story particularly interesting is that the Syrians used stolen Greek passports. And according to the police in Honduras, it is unclear whether the Syrians have links to ISIS or the events in Paris. So the Syrians arrived from Costa Rica and they were on their way to Guatemala and from there to the U.S.
Okay, Miodrag, stick with us for just a second. I want to bring in the debate that is currently ongoing in Washington because this news is bound to add fuel to the fire. The debate over refugees is underway. The House Speaker, in fact, Paul Ryan, has said that the Republicans would introduce a bill to, quote, pause the intake of refugees. Let's listen in.
Our first priority is to protect the American people. We can be compassionate, and we can also be safe. That's what the bill that we're bringing up tomorrow is all about. It calls for a new standard of verification for refugees from Syria and Iraq. It would mean a pause in the program until we can be certain beyond any doubt that those coming here are not a threat.
Let's bring Miodrag back. And Miodrag, we have to note that the United States already has pretty stringent rules and regulations when it does come to refugees. There is a waiting period among many other restrictions. So what exactly do the Republicans hope to achieve with this move?
Well, the bill would prevent any refugees from Syria or Iraq from being admitted to the U.S. unless the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, for example, can guarantee, and I think that's a word that the bill is using, and certify to Congress that each refugee doesn't pose a security threat. There will be a majority for this bill, I think, in the House. I'm not sure about the Senate, but President Obama is going to veto this bill if it is going to come to his desk.
Yeah, and in fact, there has been reaction from the man in the White House. President Obama says that slamming the door on refugees would betray the country's deepest values. He is at an economic summit in Manila at the moment. Here's a taste of what the president had to say earlier today.
I think the refugee debate is an example of us not being well served by some of the commentary that's been taking place by officials back home and in the media. Understand, under current law, it takes anywhere from, on average, 18 to 24 months to clear a refugee to come into the United States. They are subjected to the most rigorous process conceivable.
All right, Miodrag, so clear words from Obama there. So what is this really about? Is this really about these refugees, or is this just partisan politics in the United States?
I think it's politics. We shouldn't forget that elections are underway, the presidential elections and the congressional elections as well. So the majority of Americans don't want to accept any more Syrian refugees here. Politicians know that, and they are trying to maintain a tough stance on safety.
Miodrag for us in Washington.